Tonight, we're going to discuss my top 13 wide receivers for this year's NFL Draft. Hey guys, it's Joshua Klein, your host of the Draft Beard Podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this episode of the Draft Beard Podcast. So tonight, we're going to go over my top 13 wide receivers in this year's NFL Draft. But before we get to those, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I would really appreciate it. It helps get that content in front of those who are most interested in things NFL draft, maybe just sports in general. So go ahead, hit the like button, subscribe, and share this podcast. I'd really appreciate it. And don't forget to hit that notification bell. That will help get that content notified right when it comes out. You don't want to miss any content. We are just a few days away from the NFL Draft. It's coming up this week. So any content we got coming out this week, you want to be notified so you're up to date on rankings, mock drafts, and all the information of this year's NFL Draft. So like I said, we're going to be doing the top 13 wide receivers in the NFL Draft. So that means I have 13 receivers who I graded as first, second, or third, or maybe early fourth round. That's usually the criteria I do in doing my rankings episodes. So with that, let's just get right to it. And my number 13 wide receiver is a speedster out of Virginia Tech. That is Jalen Lane, the wide receiver from Virginia Tech, who came in at 5'9" 3/4", 191 pounds, ran an electric 4.34 40-yard dash, which is 96th percentile, really twitchy athleticism. He had 70 in 2023. He had 79 receptions for 1,004 yards and 8 touchdowns. He started at Middle Tennessee State, played 3 years there, transferred over to Virginia Tech, had a great showing at the Senior Bowl. He had a great, I would say, draft season, as we would say. So really good offseason for Jalen Lane. Put a lot of people on notice that he is going to be a really good, productive, speedy wide receiver in the NFL. Again, so I got elite burst. We talked about that 40-yard dash here in a 1.48 10-yard split. So he is a guy who, it's pretty obvious, he's going to stretch the field vertically. He's going to race those pursuit angles. He's dynamic after the catch. And not only does he have the speed, he's not a great contested catch guy by any stretch of the imagination, obviously it being really short, but he's exceptional after the catch, really good contact balance, great vision, breaks arm tackles. So he's able to turn those short yardage throws into big gains. He will also offer some special teams versatility. He has done well at returning punts. He's lined up all over. So he had 78% of the snaps you would think would be in the slot. That's right. But he has some outside. He has played 15% of his snaps outside. They've actually used him as a running back, a little bit of wildcat. So 7% in the backfield. He's got really good, reliable hands, only a 4.8% drop rate. The problem is Jalen's undersized, right, at 5'9", 191 pounds. He does struggle against physical corners, suppress coverage. He's going to struggle with that, lacks the play strength. Limited route tree, really he was used more in schemed up touches, screen slants, crossers, right? Only 12 of his routes were 15 yards or deeper. Small catch radius, which you would expect. Doesn't have great leaping ability, lacks a diverse release package, not that great of a blocker, 59.2 PFF run blocking grade. So he's a little bit more of a gadget player, but he's a home going to thrive in against defenses that have off-zone man coverages. His best offensive scheme fit, I'd say, spread offenses, let him spread the field, go to offensive coordinators with a little ingenuity to their game, a little creativeness. So I like Jalen Lane, really fast, speedy guy, doesn't drop the ball. I could see a team fit like the Chiefs, the Bucks, the Giants. They don't really need another type of wide receiver like that, but they just do a good job at finding those guys. I had a comp to him as a Steven Sims, if you remember him from the Houston Texans, or Jamison Crowder early in his career, or Mecole Hardman from the Green Bay Packers, I think is when he was, 5'10", 187, also ran a 4.33 40. Those are my comps for a Jalen Lane. So good, small wide receiver that you're going to have to maybe manufacture some touches to, but if you can get him on passes, like crossers going across the field, those slants. Let him build up some speed, catch the ball in the air with some momentum already going, use him in motion. I think he can be an effective player. There are quite a few players in this class who are kind of like that. I think he was one of the better ones with better hands than some of the other guys behind him. So he made it as a late third round grade for me at number 13 on my draft board. Next up, this is a guy that has kind of gotten lost in the shuffle a little bit from draft prognosticators, people who compile their big boards, rankings, and that is Tory Horton, the Colorado State wide receiver. Tory is a taller receiver at 6'3", 196 pounds. He's 22 years old. He was a fifth-year player, a 2-year starter out of Colorado State. Very productive. The problem is he was hurt, right? So he got hurt. He was injured, didn't play most of this season. Like that's kind of what has caused him to be lost. But his 2023 tape was really, really good. Tory isn't super fast. He has some explosiveness to his game, but I wouldn't say that he's a burner. He has elite ball tracking, exceptional body control, 33 3/4 inch arms. So he had a 57.1% contested catch rate in 2023. He's still able to do very well at yards after the catch. He's really twitchy, a really good balance, offers some special teams value as well because he also can return punts as well. Finds the soft spot in zone. He does really good at setting into seams, really good IQ. It is 79.4 PFF grade in 2023. Really smooth route runner. So he is nuanced. He's fluid, really savvy in his routes, really good hands. He has a 4% drop rate, really good, strong hand-eye coordination. He was a 2-team captain at Colorado State. There is a lot to like about him. When you read those stats, and then you go, wow, he's also has some height to him at 6'3". There are just not many guys out there with his type of size, contested catchability, and speed. He has a little bit of a limited route tree, so he relies a little bit too much on the go route, slants, crossers. Struggles a little bit against press coverage due to that strength from that slender frame he has. Obviously, we have the October injury, the knee injury. He's a little thin. He's not super precise in his route running, right? He's a little sloppy on his footwork. He's okay at blocking, but I would say he's marginal, meaning he's a willing blocker. Just again, that lack of strength, that thin frame shows up in him trying to run block. He is really reliant on the vertical route. So if you're looking for a guy who's fast, can beat someone and do those really deep go routes and contested catch those 50-50 balls, this is your guy, right? 51% of his targets in 2023 were over 20 yards or more. He doesn't have elite long speed, but he does well, like I said, at the yards after the catch. So I like him a lot. I think he's just being slept on because he got forgotten about. Since he missed half the season this year with Colorado State, I could definitely see him, get him a team that has a vertical passing game. We could do very well. Another coach who could get him develop his route running ability, get him to use his yards after the catch ability, and on short, maybe some shorter routes, and get him to run. I think he's going to be a really reliable Z receiver, maybe an X, but I think put him in the Z position and let him do those go routes on the inside or those long posts. And I think he'd be really a well-versed player in the NFL. Like him a lot. I compared him to kind of like a Jalen Nailor type usage, or maybe a Cortland Sutton down the field contested catch guy. So really liked Tory Horton a lot. He made it into a third round grade at number 12. Number 11 is Kyle Williams, 5'11", 190 pounds, 22 years of age. He's a 2-year starter at the University of Washington State, and he is another burner. He's a smaller elite guy, around a 4.4 40-yard dash, 1.51 10 yards split. He just blows by people. He's able to do an okay job at beating a little bit of the man press. Once he gets released, he's going to blow by you. He has really quick feet, does a good job at his releases, little hesitation, gets with the little jab. So he's done well at beating press coverage. I believe he won 68% of all of his press snaps in 2024. Slippery open field mover. He had 5.8 yards per catch per reception in 2024. So not only can he beat you, he also has the ability to, when he gets the ball, he's still going to produce some yards after catch. Does a good job at finding the spots in cover 3, cover 2. He's lined up outside 62% of the time, in the slot at 31. Also been used as a running back occasionally at about 7% of the time. And he adjusts ball to balls very well with a 57% contested catch rate in 2023. This guy is a really, really good player. I have him a little bit of a tier ahead of the first two guys I mentioned. But again, he's short, 5'10", 190 pounds, 30 and an 1/8 inch arms, inconsistent hands. So that's where we get into some of the issues. We had 9 drops and 127 targets in 2024. He struggles with, I would say, those cannon throws from quarterbacks. So high velocity flows he struggles with. Limited route tree in college. Another guy who relies on the vertical routes. He did well with just shallow crossers across the middle to use his speed. Not a very good blocker at all. Small, so obviously he's going to have the modest catch radius. I think he's going to do well with a team, again, who can use the vertical game, who wants to use motion, get him already in space once he's past the line of scrimmage. So he's got the speed. I really like Kyle Williams a lot. I struggle with some of those drops from his game, but I think he could be a dynamic player with his speed and versatility and yards after catchability. So I think a quick play action passing game like what Denver does would do well with him. I kind of compared him to a Jordan Addison of the Vikings, or on a low end, maybe a Khalif Raymond of the Detroit Lions, or an early Hunter Renfrow. So I like him a lot, has a lot of potential. I don't have him higher up my draft boards like some of the guys, just the size, the need for better route tree to his game. So I think a team that gets him, though, they can utilize his speed, they may have something there. Next up on my list, and that is my number 10 guy. So we're reaching the top 10, and that's going to be Jalen Knoll out of Iowa State. He is one of my first of 2 Iowa State guys that are going to be here. Another smaller guy at 5'9", 196 pounds, another speedy small guy at 4.39 40-yard dash, which ranked him 98th percentile. Decent vertical, though. That's the difference here, why I put him ahead of Kyle Williams, the 41.5-inch vertical. So he's short, but he also can leap. 97th percentile vertical. Really good college career, 245 receptions, 2,855 yards, and 18 touchdowns over 51 games, 4-year contributor at Iowa State, first team all Big 12. So he's got elite speed, elite burst. It stretches defenses vertically. He explodes off the line, 56% catch rate on 20-yard throws, which is number 1 in the class. And then here's another difference between some of the guys behind him. He's a really sharp route runner, really quick feet, nuanced stems, use head fakes, really good at creating separation at all levels, 74.1% success rate versus man, which is 84th percentile, and 81.8% versus zone. Also still offers that yards after catchability because he has really strong contact balance, really good vision. Also, he was the Big 12, not Big 10, wrong conference. Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Year in 2024. He returned 3 touchdowns. So he also offers special teams versatility, 80% contested catch rate in 2024, played 69% in the slot, 24% outside. Again, used a little bit as a running back, and a really good drop rate. So you can tell as we move forward in my list, some of the things that makes him different and maybe slightly better than Kyle Williams. And that's at route running, still has that yards after catch, right? Reliable hands. So he doesn't drop the ball like a Kyle Williams, even though they have 2 very similar skill sets at utilizing vertical, that vertical route tree, getting him in space. That's why I have had him ahead of Jalen Lane and a Kyle Williams. Undersized frame, He has really short arms, shortest arms in the class at wide receiver at 29.5-inch arms, limited catch radius. So that's what you're going to expect. Really small hands at 8 3/4, which could be a concern, but in college that hasn't shown up with bad drops. Simple route tree. Iowa State's route tree wasn't, he leaned too much on those slants and crossers. Post 68% of the routes that he ran were those. Not a very good blocker at all in his game. So I like him a lot. Didn't have him up my board just because I tend to side with guys who have a little bit more size and bulk and length. So there are a lot of these types of guys in the NFL now, these slot receivers, inside guys. There's just too many of those. It seems like there's a bulk of these in every draft. Short, speedy guys, and you just don't have a lot of X receivers coming out in the draft, which is why I kind of steer my lists and my bias towards guys who maybe could play the X, or maybe a little bit taller, a little bit more build to their body, a little bit more strength. So that's just my bias. So that's why I have a lot of these smaller guys who a little bit farther down my list as other guys who may have them higher on their list. I saw fit with him. Kansas City, again, they do a good job at utilizing players' yards after the catch, getting them the ball. Tampa Bay using maybe Jacksonville now, sorry, because Liam Cohen is in Jacksonville now, not Tampa Bay. So utilizing that RPO-driven offense. I had him comped to a Julian Edelman style, reliable hands like a Ladd McConkey. So that's where I had him at number 10, one of my better small receivers in this year's draft. That takes me to number 9. This is another guy that doesn't get talked a lot about, and that's going to be Jalen Royals out of Utah State, 6 foot, 205 pounds, 22 years of age. He is a dynamic playmaker. He had a 4.42 40-yard dash, which was 88th percentile. Explosive with the ball, 7.9 yards after a catch per reception in 2024, 7 touchdowns of 40 yards or more since 2023. He is a home run hitter in the making. He also does really well crisp route running, nuanced stems, does a good job at tempo changes, adjusts to the ball well. Only a 3.7% drop rate, 5 drops on 135 targets, really good body control. He kind of has basketball-inspired agility, really good spatial awareness. He aligned outside 68% of the time, 28% in the slot. So this is a guy here that's a little different. He's not going to be a slot merchant. I think he can line up at the Z, maybe throw him out wide as an X, but probably fits well as a Z receiver. Did some kick returns, so not a lot. So just had some special teams value. And I like the fact that he stayed at Utah State, didn't move around. I'll give him a little bit of an uptick there. Was loyal to Utah State. Smaller frame. He had 30-inch arms, which is small. 3 for 8 in tight coverage throws, so he lacks the length to box out defenders. Struggles in press coverage, so inconsistent hand usage trying to break press. Again, another guy who struggles with that play strength. Gets disrupted on his releases. Again, another one of these guys that relies on vertical slants and screens. It's just kind of the way the college game is going. So again, limited route tree versatility, marginal blocking, willing blocker, but not a great blocker. I comped him to a DJ Moore, compact frame, both very similar. Both were fast, both good at yards after catch. They kind of mirror each other. They both excel in the quick game. Or another guy I compared him to in size as a Trey Palmer, who is now, I believe, where'd he go? Buffalo. I think he went into the offseason this year. So I like him a lot. Again, you just see a little bit more things with each of these guys as we move up my list and my rankings. A little bit better at maybe some route running, a little bit better at yards after the catch, a little bit better with the drops. So I liked Jalen Royals a lot. I think he slept on. Thought about having him higher. It's just there in this part of the draft, this year's wide receiver class is just jammed. And I want to say early to mid round 2 to mid to late round 3 is where the bulk of these receivers are. So like from my number 13 all the way to my number 2 are all second and third round grades, the majority of those being in the second round, which takes me to my very first second round graded wide receiver. And that is the tall, lanky, and Alec Ayomaner from Stanford. He is 6'1 3/4", 206 pounds, and he's speedy. He ran a 4.44 40-yard dash. Top 10 among wide receivers. Also, when you count that 38.5-inch vertical, 2 years, really good 2-year production at Stanford with 125 receptions for 1,844 yards, 12 touchdowns. He's actually from Canada, moved to the United States. His breakout season was 2023. He has that prototypical build and physicality you like to see from NFL wide receivers. He overwhelms those smaller DBs. He's able to box out those DBs as well. 60% catch rate. Does a great job at high pointing the ball, tracks it well. He has elite ability to adjust to off-target throws. He's climbed the ladder multiple times, looking at those, getting those spectacular grabs. You see those highlight reels on YouTube. More nuanced route running than some of the guys behind him. Uses those head fakes, tempo changes, really good violent hands. This is one area where I really love his game, and it's a vast difference between some of the other receivers on this draft, and probably maybe one of the top ones at doing this ability, and that he is a great blocker. If you're a team who loves to have their wide receivers block, and that is a high trait for you, he is going to be much higher on that team's draft board. The team that I root for, and obviously you see me wear a lot of their gear and all stuff behind me, the Lions, they highly value your ability to be a blocker. So I think he would fit very well with their mentality. Really super competitive. He is an alpha dog on the field. You see it. He does find the soft zone areas in cover 2 and cover 3. He's really good at sitting in them and athletic, and a really good, strong contested catch guy. I think he's a guy who can be an X receiver at the next level. Some issues I have with them. Drops were a little bit more than I'd like to see. Again, same kind of problem we see with a lot of the receivers in coming out of college. Just that route tree is not as nuanced. Lean too much on the go with hitches and slants. Those are 50% of his routes. He's not the shiftiest guy, so this is a difference between the guys behind him. Not the greatest yards after catch guys. So he only had 3.8 yards after catch per reception. He kind of relies a little bit more on the power and his strength and his agility. Most of his production came from big games as of being consistent game to game. And he can be a little stiff, right? He does sometimes seem to be a little stiff in his movements, but like him a lot, I think he can develop into being a really good X receiver, a good starter at the NFL level. I think a team like Detroit would do well with him. Green Bay would be a really good fit for him. Team needing an outside receiver. I kind of compared him to a Corey Davis, if you remember him. He came out of Western Michigan, or a Keenan Allen, similar in size. Allen was 6'2", 211. Both excel versus the zone. Both are very good blockers. So that's my high ceiling, is a comp of Keenan Allen for Alec Ayomaner, the receiver out of Stanford. So we've reached 8 guys. We're now getting to my number 7 wide receiver, and that is going to be Luther Burden III. I know I'm probably going to take a little bit of flack for having Luther at 7, right? Luther Burden is a 6 foot, 206 pound wide receiver out of the University of Missouri. He's from St. Louis. He's 21 years old. It's not that I don't like Luther Burden, right? He's very athletic. He was a 5-star recruit from East St. Louis, Missouri. He amassed 192 receptions for 2,263 yards and 21 touchdowns over his 3 seasons at the University of Missouri. He's a yard after the catch monster, right? He is a tackle breaking machine, 72 forced missed tackles throughout his career, 7.0 yak per reception. He's more like a running back when he gets the ball. He does have explosive athleticism with a 1.52 10-yard split, really hyper elite short area twitch, really quick, exceptional agility, really great at changing direction. His lateral quickness and ability to change direction on a dime, one of a kind. He is truly special in that. He is a nightmare for defenders to try to track and stick with him. 85.9 catch rate in 2003 and a really low drop rate. So he doesn't drop the ball. He lined in the slot most at 80% of the time, 15% outside in the backfield, 5%. He tracks the deep ball well, right? He adjusts really well to vertical throws, returned punts as well. Though here's the flip side, though. It's hard to see where Luther excelled. The offense that he was running in Missouri and how they used him is a crime in how they used him. They have an exceptional player, and they didn't utilize some of his strength. He can be a really good contested catch guy. Some of the misnomers about Luther and his production in 2024 really have to do with his quarterback play. Because if you look at his route running and how he was open, but they just missed it. So a lot of his lack of production, or maybe you think that wasn't doing a good job at catching the ball. Those balls were off target. So a lot of the stuff with Luther is really, you have to go back to his 2023 tape and kind of look at that production, right? He doesn't have a great route tree, and is that because of him, or is it because of the Missouri offense, right? They really pushed him on screen slants and goes. I don't know if that's going to be the best way to excel with Luther at the NFL level. I think if you get him and utilize his contested catch ability, he has really good hands. Maybe use him on some posts, get him on some vertical go routes. I think he has good release at the line of scrimmage, but he just needs refinement in his route running. He shows flashes of it. He just needs consistency, some coaching, more precision, right? He can refine his footwork. I think he can be a good receiver. And I think coaching will help him with his press coverage struggles. Here's the issue where I have with Luther, and you saw it on tape. This is why I have him at 7, and it's not necessarily because I'm not really high on him. It's just some of the other receivers that you'll see higher on my list had more recent tape, which showed upward trajectory, right? Better recent tape compared to Luther. And this is the big thing that got me, is inconsistent effort. Like, he came across really frustrated on the field. Just in games where he looked like he was giving up on routes, where he just quit, right? That is a quality that I do not want to see from any player at any position on the field. I want leaders on my team. I want guys who are going to give it their go from snap 1 to snap 40, 50, 80 during the game, and be a leader on his team, be an example. And I just didn't see that from Luther Burden. So that is the biggest reason why I have him down on my draft board and compared to other guys in this year's draft class. I think if you get him and you get him some coaching, I think he can develop into maybe being a really good, above average to good starter at the NFL level. His ceiling is probably even higher than that, right? I think I compared him to a JSN. That's my floor, similar size, good stop-start quickness. Both needed route polish coming out of college, or Percy Harvin, an electric athlete who can change the game on a dime. So that's by comparison, you can see that his ceiling is pretty high. It's just, I wonder if he has the work ethic to get there. And that is why I was not as high on Luther Burden. And that's why I had him number 7. I know I'll probably take some flack for that. I'm not a Luther Burden hater by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just looking at what I see, calling the balls and strikes, and that's how I see it with Luther Burden. That takes me to my number 6 receiver in this year's draft, and this is one of my favorite guys to watch, and that is Jack Bech out of the University of TCU. He's a physically imposing, is a possession-style receiver, 6'1", 214 pounds, not a fast burner. So a lot of the guys that you've seen in this draft class so far have had speed, right? That's not his game. 4.55 40-yard dash, good RAS score at over 9. He had 62 receptions for 1,034 yards and 9 touchdowns in 2024. He had a really great Senior Bowl. He was the MVP of the Senior Bowl. He is elite physical frame at 214 pounds, bench press 23 times. His strength allows him to bully defensive backs. 61.8% contested catch rate, elite size and frame. He's really sturdy build. You can tell he's got the overwhelming physical presence on the field. Sure hands, and like I just said, contested catch dominant. And to go along with that, he's a really good savvy route runner. He manipulates coverage very well, uses tempo really well, good head fakes, finds those soft spots in the zone, and also has that yards after catch toughness, right? He had 15 forced missed tackles in 2024, and he's also played on some special teams. He allowed 65% of his snaps from on the outside with 35 in the slot. So again, he's one of those guys who can play Z, maybe play X, with also some special teams ability. And he's a really willing, capable blocker. That's another value that I have highly in my wide receivers. Now, like I said, he's not very fast, right? That 4.55 40, not great. 34.5-inch vertical. He's a little taller than some of the other guys who gets out jumped by some of the smaller guys that we've talked about. Undefined route tree that you see with a lot of these receivers, 60% go, slants, and hitches. 42% win rate on curls and digs. Needs some improvement there. He kind of rounds out his breaks. That definitely needs some coaching there. Struggles against press coverage. You'd think a guy with this strength would do better about that, but it's that lack of explosive first step. Another concern I have is he had the single year breakout in 2024. So he had a college career where he didn't break out to the end. So more recent tape maybe does bode well for him, but it's also a concern that, why didn't he break out before? Had some injury history back in 2022, missed a couple games, a knee injury where he missed 4 games in 2023. I think if you get him with a team like Pittsburgh that uses a lot of play action, I think that would be do really well for him. I had a comp to Eric Decker, if you remember him, out of Denver, who was 6'3", 214 pounds. Both similar size, both had really good catch rate, both were physical. That's who I had comped. I like Jack Bech. I think he has really good upside. Some concerns are, is he just going to be a big slot? Hit that concern. Is he really just a big kind of tight end? See that as well, because he's not the speediest guy, but I liked Jack. That's why I had him at my number 6 spot in this year's draft. That takes me to my number 5 wide receiver in this year's draft, and it's another late breakout star at college, and that is Texas's Matthew Golden, who was 5'11", 191 pounds, and absolutely stunned everyone at the combine with running a 4.29 40-yard dash, which was the absolute tops. He had a 9.68 RAS score, shows explosive athleticism. He started at the University of Houston, transferred over to Texas, where he led the Longhorns this last season with 58 receptions for 987 yards and 9 touchdowns. He's a really good, crisp route runner, uses precise footwork, really good variation in tempo. So he had a 68.5% success versus man, 82.5% rate of success versus zone coverage per reception perception. Really good contested catch rate ability, really good strong hands, uses his body well, secures those tight window throws. Played X at 76% of the time, played in the slot at 20, and a little bit of Z as well. Can track the ball deep as well. Elite ball skills on vertical routes. We caught 7 of 10 deep throws and 5.6% yards after catch per reception and 26 forced missed tackles in his career. So he has okay size, but he's not tall, not thin framed, but he gets really fast, shows really good route running ability, good contested catch, good yak. So some of the things that you've seen in the receivers down the list, but he just does them better. At least that's what he showed in his breakout season this last year. Struggles against press, could use some bulk up and some strength, better release package, inconsistent blocker. needs some coaching there. I don't think he is terrible, is lackadaisical. He's willing, just needs some coaching. This is an area of concern I had for him is focus drops. He had a 9.4% drop rate, which is one of the reasons I had him at this spot at number 5 on my list and didn't have him up higher like a lot of draft people do. Concerned about the drop. He needs to continue to develop the understanding of defensive coverage a little bit. Lack of high-end production, right? He didn't have a 1,000-yard season, and he was a late bloomer in terms of that production. So he didn't have great stats at the University of Houston, didn't have exceptional stats at the University of Texas. He's more of a straight line yards after the catch guy, so he just kind of beats people with his speed once he gets it. He doesn't use his lateral elusiveness, so he does break tackles well. He's able to get out of that. So I like Matthew Golden. It's that drop rate that kind of kept him behind the other list, and the fact that he's 5'11", right? The guys you notice that are higher on my list, 3 of the 4 of them are much taller than that. So I like Matthew. I think I had a second round grade, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's going to end up going in the first round. I think he would thrive in more of a timing based spread offense. I think Dallas would do well with him. The Rams and his motion heavy offense there. My high end comp for Matthew Golden was Chris Olave. Olave was 6 foot, 187, not as fast in the 40 time, but both lacked elite size, but kind of win with their technique and speed. Another guy that I compared him to is a Hollywood Brown, smaller, speedy receivers who can stretch the field. So that's where I had Matthew Golden at number 4 on my list. And next up, beginning on to the next 2 are 2 of my favorite receivers in this draft class who kind of really moved up my draft boards the more I watched them. And my number 4 on my list is the second of my 2 Iowa State receivers. That is the tall 6'4", 214-pound Jaden Higgins out of the University of Iowa State. He's more of a possession receiver, not slow, so he is faster than Jack Bech at 4.47 40-yard dash. Really good catch radius at 33 1/4 inch arms and almost an 80-inch wingspan at 79.38. He was a 2-star recruit. He went to the University of Eastern Kentucky and then transferred to Iowa State. So he has prototypical size that you're looking for in an X receiver, prototypical catch radius that you're looking for. Really good hands, 9.5-inch hands. He presents a massive target. He excels in those back shoulder fades and jump balls, the 56% catch radius. Elite hands, doesn't drop the ball, 3% career drop rate, 7 drops on 350 targets. And he still has good vertical speed and acceleration, good straight line speed, allows him to stretch the field vertically. He's also a savvy route runner. He had a 74% success versus zone and 68% versus man. Good body control, understands where the spots are when he's up against cover 2, cover 3, sets the seams well. And he's a red zone threat, probably one of the best in the class, 15 touchdowns in 2 seasons at Iowa State, and a pretty decent blocker at 70.1 PFF blocking grade, uses his strength and his leverage to win. Now, he doesn't have elite long speed, top end speed, right? He has a long striding gait, modest yards after the catch. So he's not very agile, only 3.8 yards after catch per reception, with only 8 forced missed tackles this last year. Struggles to get out in press coverage. Only 58% of his contested catch rate were against smaller defensive backs. Little concerning there. Rounds out the top of his breaks. So, and he's a little stiff in his short area movements. Right? He's got good straight line speed, but not very agile. I think he can develop into a prototypical X receiver, a touchdown target. I think his best, team fits. Pittsburgh's style of play action would do well for him, getting guys down the field. I think that's why you see Pittsburgh, who has both Pickens and DK Metcalf now on their team. I compared Jaden Higgins to a Nico Collins type. Nico, remember, he's 6'4", 215 pounds, ran it pretty close at a 4.5 40. Both didn't drop the ball very well. Both excel versus zone. Another guy comped him to similar build, ability to stretch the field, maybe the floor here as a Van Jefferson. So I really like Jaden Higgins, second round grade on him. Again, if you notice here, I have the preference towards the bigger, taller guy. So I think maybe he can play the X at the NFL level. So I had Jaden Higgins at number 4. I could see him sneak into the first round, but I think I see him going in the second. If your team needs one of those touchdown catch, vertical threat, contested catch monsters, then he will be just the guy for you. So Jaden Higgins, going to be a really good player at the NFL level. That takes me to my number 3 receiver in this year's draft. And this is one of my guys. I watched him early on in the process, and there was just something about this guy's game that just screamed, I think this guy has absolute Pro Bowl potential when he gets to the NFL level. And that is 6'2", 205-pound Tre Harris, the wide receiver out of Mississippi. I will absolutely pound the table for this guy. He is a contested catch monster, elite at winning jump balls with a 61.5-inch contested catch rate in 2024. He had a really good season. He was a 2-star recruit from Lafayette, Louisiana. He started at Louisiana Tech, transferred over to Ole Miss. He had 114 receptions, 2,015 yards, and 15 touchdowns over those first 2 seasons. Now, the thing with Tre, he got hurt middle of the season this year. So that's caused, some concern there. Maybe some people just have missed out on what he actually was doing this season. He has a massive catch radius, is 6'2", 31 and 7/8 inch arms and 9 and 5/8 inch hands. Hands, big size. It allows him to pluck passes outside of his frame, again, with that really good 78.9 catch rate. Really reliable hands, secures passes really well in tight coverage. Really physical. He boxes out defenders like a basketball player, which you can tell that 210 pounds and he had 15 bench press reps. Ball tracking and body control is really good. He adjusts really well to quarterbacks who don't get the ball right in that tight window. So he's good at those off-target throws. 74% success rate versus man coverage per reception perception. Really good nuanced route runner. Reliable target on third downs and in the red zones. So he's really reliable in his route running there. Uses his strong hands. Uses the go-to target in critical situations. 15 touchdowns in those 2 seasons. He was lined up primarily as an X receiver, but he's effective in the slot. They use him a lot in motion at Ole Miss. Now, here's the problem with Tre Harris's game. So the Mississippi offense is very RPO heavy. They leaned too much on curls, slants, and goes and screens. Those are 60% of Tre's routes. So does he have the ability at the next level to have a well-versed route tree? Can he get coached up and be taught a bigger and more nuanced route tree? That is a big concern with him, right? He only had a 42% win rate on digs. He has average speed, lacks breakaway juice, only 3 catches to 50 yards or more. So a lot of what he does is gets those home run hits after those yards after the catch. Doesn't do well at breaking press coverage, right? He's got too many repetitive releases. So cornerbacks kind of know what he's trying to do. He is an blocker, really inconsistent. He tries. He's not super elusive, but he does do okay at yards after the catch, right? He doesn't miss forced tackles a lot. He just is able to use his elusiveness to get around those defensive backs. The thing is, I think Tre Harris has all-pro potential. He just has such a big body and was able to move very well and get really long receptions with his elusiveness. It's just the downside of his game is going to be he can't just be a guy who has manufactured touches. He has to develop those. He has to get better at different types of routes. He has to be better maybe getting some posts, doing some crossers. So teams that can get him to be more versatile in his route tree, and I think the ceiling is really high for Trey Harris. I just watched him on film and something just clicked to me when I watched him. I'm like, wow, this guy at the next level, I think has all pro Bowl type potential to his game, which is why I had him at number 3. Understand the concern completely that a lot of people have and why they have him much lower. Most have him down lower in the top 10. Some people may not even have him in the top 10. I get it. It's that route tree that he ran in college is a big concern. But just the eye test for me just showed something that I think he's going to be an excellent player at the NFL level. I comped Trey Harris, his game. I had him comped to kind of a Cortland Sutton type, really a Michael Thomas, 6'3", 212, not great speed. Trey probably is a little bit faster. Both were physical. Both had pretty good drop rates. So I think Michael Thomas is my decent comp, low end Tyler Boyd style receiver, but I had a Michael Thomas and a Tyler Boyd as my comps for Trey. And that takes me to my number 2 receiver in this class. And this guy is going to be a really, really good pro. And that is 6'1", 206-pound Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State. Ran a 4.42 40-yard dash, which is 88th percentile, 39.5-inch vertical. Great RAS score at 9.821. So he's really athletic. He was a 5-star recruit in that loaded Ohio State room. So he kind of does get forgotten about a little bit because Ohio State's receiver room has been so good over the years. But I think Emeka has a really, really low floor. I think he's going to come into the NFL and be a reliable starter from day one. He has some of the most elite, precise route running in the class, really good footwork, really good tempo variation, violently breaks his routes. He creates consistent separation at 74.1 success versus man, 82.5% versus zone. That's, again, per reception perception. He's just a technician when it comes to route running. Best route runner in this class. They'll die on that hill. He is impressive route runner, really reliable hands, does not drop the ball at a 2.6% career drop rate, soft hands, really good focus through contact, good contested catch rate. And again, he's a good enough athlete, understands where to be in zone coverage. He's aligned in the slot 65% of the time, 30% outside. I think he could play either position. He can play slot. I think if you needed it in a pinch, also utilize him at X, you could. But I think he's going to be more of an inside guy, really good yards after the catch ability. He's not like an explosive speed demon like some of the guys farther down my list, and Kyle Williams, Jalen Knoll, Jalen Lane. But he's just elusive with the ball in his hands. So he's kind of like he's like a possession receiver, but with a little bit more explosiveness than a big-bodied possession receiver. Also has return punts. Where he struggles is inconsistent in beating press coverage. He lost 6 of 18 press snaps in 2024. Limited red zone dominance, so he's the polar opposite of, say, Jaden Higgins in being a touchdown monster, right? Only 8 TDs in 2024. 50% contested catch rate and tight coverage. Limited experience is the true number 1 option. And that can be a little bit of a concern, but I think that's more to do with how many good receivers were at Ohio State. And when you're looking at drafting players, some of it is what can you get now, and some of it is projection. I think Emeka could be a really good quality number 1 receiver in the NFL, or maybe a like solid wide receiver 2 that you also paired with another wide receiver 2. It does tend to get pushed around by stronger defenders. I had him comped as like a Garrett Wilson style, another Ohio State guy, both pretty decent, not burners, right? Both excelled versus zone, did both do well against man. Another comp I had for him was a polished route runner with reliable hands was Amari Cooper. If you remember when he was coming out of college, now he's with the Buffalo Bills. So I love Emeka Egbuka. I think he is going to be a very good pro. Highest floor, I think, of any receiver in this draft. high floor, maybe a little bit less of a ceiling than some of these other guys, but had him as a solid second round grade. Could definitely see him going in the first round. And that takes me to wide receiver number 1 in this class, a guy who a lot of people have gotten a little bit of prospect fatigue on, and that is Tetairoa McMillan out of the University of Arizona, 6'4", 213 pounds. He was a 3-year starter at the University of Arizona. 4.55 40-yard dash, 34-inch vertical. Really good athletic player. He had 213 receptions for 3,423 yards and 26 touchdowns over his 3 seasons at the University of Arizona. He is an elite contested catch guy. He led all receivers in this year's draft class with 35 contested catches, which is 61.4. That's since 2023. With his 6'4" height, 31.5-inch arms, 10-inch hands, he really does a good job grabbing throws outside of his frame. Good route runner. He's a really flexible for his size. It's really good clean footwork. 70.4% success rate versus man. 81 versus zone per reception perception. 5.1 yards after catch per reception. He does a decent job at breaking arm tackles. Good balance. He has outstanding ball skills. Outstanding hands. Really remarkable to track and high point the ball. His catch radius is enormous. Lined up at X 76% of the time and Z 10, and in the slot 22.9. He is a red zone dominant wide receiver. Tops in the class, just ahead of Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State. Elite hand-eye coordination, really good body control. That is who he's going to be. He is going to be your go-get-him, up high, X receiver who's going to be your touchdown catching monster. Really good, struggles with press coverage, right? He's not very explosive offline. So he's not super fast, but he's not slow either. You watch him play, his play speed and on the field is adequate. So he doesn't have that top end speed that you'd like to see, which is going to limit him. So he's going to be more of either a possession receiver or a red zone touchdown catching monster. Doesn't always play to his size. That's kind of one of the knocks on him. Shies away from contact, right? 42% win rate through contact. That's not good. Rounds out his breaks. He has very long strides, so he's not very sharp at all. Did see some drops this year, right? 9.5% drop rate, which is up from his 2023 drop rate. Which was 2.2%. Is that a lack of focus on him? Is it just luck? Is it just some technique that needs refinement? But he did have some spike in his drop rate. And one of the other things, he's inconsistent in creating separation. He's got great size, but that's not his game. Those guys are further down the list. The Kyle Williams, the Jalen Knowles, the Jalen Lane. Those are the guys who just are shifty and are going to create separation with speed. This is a different type of receiver, right? He's going to use his body. He's going to use that ability to create the catches. Two totally different types of players. These ones are harder to find, right? That size and catch radius, that's a lot harder to find in today's NFL. I did give Tet a first-round grade on him. I see him kind of as like a Michael Pittman style receiver, both not burners, both are possession style receivers, both struggle with press, but excel in contested catch situation. I know everyone wants to say Drake London, but I see more of a Michael Pittman style to his game. I think he can be a really good starter at the NFL level. I don't know if I see the whole comparison to the production of a Mike Evans or Drake London, but I think he's a step below that. Michael Pittman level style receiver, maybe just a step above that. I don't know if he's going to develop into a Pro Bowl receiver, but has a little bit higher ceiling than Emeka, lower floor than Emeka. And so I still had him as my number 1 receiver in the draft. It's a weird year. I don't know if he really is worthy of a top 10 pick, but just because the way this draft class is and finding big, taller guys like that is much rarer than the shorter, shifty guys. I think I understand why teams are looking at him maybe in the top 10 of this year's draft, but it's a weird class overall. It's kind of hard to get a read on where players will actually fall in this year's draft and where teams really want them. So that is my top 13 wide receivers in this year's NFL draft. And before I leave, I'll give you a couple names to be on the lookout for later on day 3. There are a bunch of them. I have as many guys graded late 4th to early 6th round as I did in the first 3 rounds. There's a big gap for me. So I have the guys that we've just talked about for the last little bit. Those 13 guys are my day 1, day 2 guys. One guy I have is a 4th round graded guy, and that is another contested catch guy in Pat Bryant out of the University of Illinois. Some guys I like that I'll just leave you a few names if you're watching day 3, or maybe some of these guys sneak into day 2. Isaac Tesla from Arkansas, slot merchant with speed, and he's got really good size, just over 6'3". Nick Nash, the 6'2.5" a wide receiver out of the University of San Jose State, was one of the leading production receivers in this year in college football. He was a former quarterback at San Jose State. Needs a lot of refinement to his game. He had a lot of production. Elijah Badger out of Florida. The speed guy, Dante Thornton Jr. out of the University of Tennessee. Another guy I'd look at. He's just he's going to be a guy out there. He's going to hit the go route, get the speed, catch the ball down the field. He's a one route type of guy with elite speed. And then Keandre Lambert-Smith out of the University of Auburn, another guy to watch out for. And then this last name I'll leave you with is Savion Williams. Now, I am much lower on Savion Williams than a lot of people. I have him ranked as my number 25th wide receiver, and that's because I don't know where you're going to put him. He is a really good athlete, phenomenal athlete. Is he a running back? Is he a wide receiver? He's just a guy that you're going to have to figure out what in the world to do with him. If you got a good offensive coordinator who can game plan from it, he does not have a true position in the NFL. I've seen some guys with a 2nd round grade, 3rd round grade on Savion Williams, but I really just don't know where he fits at the NFL level with his skill set. He can catch touchdowns, but can't run routes for anything. It's like he doesn't know what football really is. So Savion Williams, an enigma. And that's another guy, another name to watch out for. So he's the last guy I'll leave you with, some day 3 guys just to be aware of that you could hear their name called at the NFL draft. So with that takes me to the end of my wide receiver rankings, my top 13 in the 2025 NFL draft. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I would really appreciate it if you did that, and turn on that notification bell so you are notified of all of the episodes and rankings and different things we have happening here at the Draft Beard Podcast. So thank you so much, and looking forward to the NFL draft later this week.
The Draft Beard Podcast.